Okay, so if you're ready to go deeper into the teachings of Reiki beyond just technique, then you're really going to enjoy this conversation with my very special guest, the profoundly knowledgeable and very charismatic Frans Stiene. Welcome, Frans. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you for inviting me. Exciting.
I know it's lovely to have you here. I'm really excited to have you here. And welcome to everyone to My Spiritual Butterfly. My name is Gwen, and I'm a Reiki Master teacher and a transformational life coach of 16 years. Time's going by now. And I'm so excited to have one of my favorite Reiki Master teachers, favorite authors, Reiki authors with us today, Frans Stiene. So some of you may already know Frans, but let me share some more information about him that you may not be aware of. So Frans Stiene is based in the Netherlands. He is one of the most renowned Reiki teachers in the world. I agree. His practical understandings of the Japanese influences on the system of Reiki has allowed students worldwide to connect deeply with this practice. Frans is the main teacher of the International House of Reiki, which focuses solely on the system of Reiki as a spiritual and healing practice. He is the author of critically acclaimed books, The Inner Heart of Reiki, which is the first book I kind of read, Rediscovering Your True Self, Reiki Insights, and The Way of Reiki, Inner Teachings of Mikao Usui. His books are in English, Dutch, German, French, and hopefully soon more languages. Additionally, he co-authored the Reiki Sourcebook, The Japanese Art of Reiki, A to Z of Reiki Pocketbook, and Your Reiki Treatment. Frans has also lived in India and Himalaya for 2 years and in Australia. He now enjoys traveling the world to teach and have exciting adventures. Since 2012, Frans is training with Takeda Hokusai Ajari, is that okay? A priest based in Japan, to deepen his understanding of the system of Reiki and other Japanese spiritual practices. Welcome, welcome, Frans. Wow. It is really an honor and a privilege to have you join me today. I'm so, so happy and so excited to have this conversation with you. And I wanted to start by, I have loads of questions. I said that to you before we came on, so we'll see how long this goes on for. But my first question really, I'm just really curious to find out what was calling you so strongly to seek out all these different teachers within the Reiki world and Buddhism and even Shintoism, I think, and kind of what was going on in your life, if anything, that was really calling you to reach for something more.
Yeah, I was when I lived in the Himalayas, we had a Reiki center there for a year, and it was in Darjeeling. And then lots of travelers and backpackers. And so then we met all these different people who've also practiced the system of Reiki. And one was saying, oh, but this, and the other one was saying that. Yeah. I thought it was very confusing because everybody had a different viewpoint. One said it came from Tibet, one said this is Japanese, one said this, one said that. One felt the need for protection and the other not. And it was lots of these kind of things. So then when we got back to Australia, I started to do a lot of research. And because I thought, okay, what actually happened here? What happened with the system of Reiki? And also, when in Darjeeling and around was lots of local healers, Tibetan, Nepali, Hindu, all sorts of different kind of healers. And when you would go to those healers, they all had their own very strict meditation practice. And the quality and the energy and the luminosity what came from these people was definitely something I had not experienced with any other Reiki teacher or practitioner. And I go like, I want what they have. I remember once there was this very young Tibetan man, and we were talking about it. So what is this Reiki? And I was very little bit still, I'm still ignorant, but ignorant. And you do healing with your hands because at that time that was how I learned it. And he go, oh, like this, and he puts his hand towards me. Oh man, like the state of mind what triggered it, like instantly, the energy what came through my body, and I go, yeah, something like that. And then I go like, shit, I want what he has. But he just came out of a 3-year meditation retreat with his teacher in a cave. And so, and of course, we learned the story of Mikasui sitting on Mount Kurama, and you've been just to Japan, what is exciting.
Yes.
And
Very.
you know, he wasn't having a picnic there. He was doing some serious practice. Actually, these practices still exist today for 21 days, and then you can do 100 days, then you can do 1,000 days, but very, very difficult. And you know, they practice 20 hours a day. And then, of course, when you do that, your quality of mind, energy, etc., is very, very different. So that really triggered for me, okay, what really happened with Mikusui? What really took place? And can I practice this as a foreigner or Westerner, or even if we maybe a Japanese person, doesn't really matter, but yeah.
Okay. So what did their practice consist of when they were doing these multi-day, I guess, was it meditation or was it actual Reiki or?
Yeah, I mean, like we have to see, of course, that, for example, when we say Reiki, and now we think
Hmm.
hands-on healing, but traditionally Reiki meant your inner true light, your inner nature, sometimes called Kami or Buddha nature. In fact, actually, there is an interview of Mikasui, and it's written down, and it's in a
Hmm.
booklet what is given out by Reiki organizations still in Japan, the Usui Reiki
Hmm.
Ryokakai. And it
Hmm.
says that Mikasui asked about a certain question, and within this question, he answers that the mindset of Kami and Buddha is the most important element of this healing. And I think this is what we forget. And what
Hmm.
does that mean? That means
Hmm.
ultimately realizing our true nature, our essence, or enlightenment, or whatever word we call it, doesn't
Hmm.
matter. And of course, when we sit on these mountaintops for 21 days, they do a lot of chanting. I mean, chanting in Japan is very strong because it's
Hmm.
seen as a bridge between the physical body and the mind, because the physical
Yeah.
body is very tangible, the mind is very subtle, and chanting is
Hmm.
somewhere in between.
Hmm.
So it's this bridge. So to do lots of these. It depends also if you do the practice from Shintoism or Tendai Buddhism or those kind of elements. So that also then is a different. But yeah, lots of maybe walking meditations, but it's not the way we do. Just it's not
Yeah.
hiking. You chant mantras while you're
Hmm.
walking. I mean, it's a very very focused. You learn how to focus your mind, and then
Hmm.
traditionally called samatha practice and an insight practice, vipassana. Who am I? What is my essential nature? And from that mindset of Kami and Buddha, spaciousness, openness, then of course that is linked with our energy that triggers a tremendous amount of energy, luminosity. In this is I was in Japan in 2003,
Hmm.
and I came across a priest who was a marathon monk, and the marathon monks are seen as living Buddhas. And we're just chatting with this man for 5 minutes. Man, I thought I had 20 attunements, 20 Reiki treatments, all in one go. An hour later, I was still like this, shaking. My whole body was buzzing and luminous and light. And the mind said, well, like, holy geez, what just happened? And the guy was just chatting like this. And so, you
Hmm.
know, then if you practice like these people do and Mikasui on Mount Karama, that essential really triggering this openness, this spaciousness, and realizing that ultimately we already have this openness and spaciousness today. It's not something it accumulates, but it's realizing that we are already enlightened. And when we look at
Hmm.
these symbols and mantras in Mikasui's teachings, he keeps pointing to that space all the time.
Hmm. The remembering really that that's who
Yeah,
we really are. Yeah, that's
yeah,
how I talk about it now with my students. It isn't I'm teaching you something. This is something you really already know,
absolutely.
which
Yeah. I mean,
is
it's a
yeah.
birthright. Yeah,
This is who you are.
yeah,
You know, you are Cami. I love it.
yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you. There's so much there. So, in terms of obviously, we've seen what these marathon Buddhist monks are practicing. I know you love chanting. You bring that into your teachings, but do you have a sort of daily practice for yourself, or are you just embodying Reiki all the time?
I think it depends. So
Mm,
definitely sitting meditation practice,
mm-hmm,
and that could be maybe chanting the precepts or working with the symbols and mantras and then more internalize them, right? Not something
mm-hmm,
externalize, because if we
mm,
want to remember who we are, then we have to go inside. I mean, my inner
absolutely.
luminosity is not hanging somewhere in the sky there. It's right
Mm,
here in our physical body, and the physical body, therefore, is so important. We can see this, of course, already in Mikasui's teachings, that when we do hands-on healing, we touch the body, saying
mm,
right here, right now, because
mm,
the body is not in the past, the body is also not in the future, but it's right here.
mm,
So that we really helps us to stay focused right here in the body. Yeah, and so when we work with those symbols and mantras in my daily meditation practice, then for me also, I think one of the most important elements, and I think often forgotten, is taking the practice into your daily life. And
mm.
then, of course, we cannot do chanting all day long. We can also not do hands-on healing on someone, people in the street. But through practice, we can realize this state of mind, of openness, of luminosity, of ultimately, yeah, what behind me is the precepts in Japanese.
Mhm,
Today, do not anger, worry, be grateful, be true to your way and your being, and show compassion to yourself and others.
mhm,
And bringing that into your daily life, be kind to people. And then, of course, also realizing that this kindness needs to be a kindness that doesn't change according to circumstances. So
mhm,
it's not, oh, I'm going to be kind to that person because that's my friend, and there's
mhm,
the neighbor who annoys me, and I'm not going to be kind to them. No, then we're also going to be, as much as possible, kind to that person, because
mhm,
else we still live in this very dualistic idea. And that inner luminosity, what Mikasui so beautiful talks about, great bright light in Reiki 3, is actually compassion, what doesn't change according to circumstances. And
mm.
so, as much as possible, for me in my daily practices, try to bring that into my daily life when I encounter
Mhm.
people, situations, difficult moments. I travel a lot with teaching, so
Yeah.
traveling I think is great, and the
Mhm,
plane isn't going, or the hotel is not what you think it is, or I don't know. So you know that when you travel, eh, lots of options to put your practice in your daily life.
mhm.
And
And
yeah, so
sorry,
for
carry
me
on. You.
also, this is
Mhm,
why it's so important to realize that Reiki is your kami, Buddha nature, or inner bright light, whatever label we stick on it. Ultimately, it
mhm,
needs to be label free, but that's another topic.
mhm,
Because Mikasui also in his precept says today, it doesn't say on a massage table or on your meditation pillow, but today in all we do.
mhm, mhm. I love it. There's so many things there. One with the connection with the body. You mentioned Vipassana before, and it's something I've just suddenly been drawn to recently. Already doing my self Reiki and meditation, but always with music in the background. But Vipassana has come to me as a way of, as you said, connecting to the body even more and listening to what's going on there. Because
Yeah,
often in spiritual practices, we want to run away from the body. We kind of make the body wrong, like the body is something evil, and
yeah.
not understanding that that is also kami and spirit manifested. And so we have to connect with that, and it helps us get present. But how do you mentioned obviously when you're traveling, these things may challenge you. How do you move through that? Does it take a while to kind of actually let me remember the precepts, or do you find it just washes over you when something upsets you, or you don't stay there for long, basically?
Yeah, it depends on, of course, the triggers. We all have certain
Mm-hmm.
triggers. And yeah, I just want to go back a little bit to the body, because
Mm.
as you say, I think these days we see the system of Reiki, or sometimes the spiritual practice, as almost as an escape from the body. And
Mm-hmm.
we're zoning out. And if
Mm.
I'm zoning out, we go like, oh, like this. And healing is somewhere out there, or spirit is somewhere out there and not here. But then it becomes very, very difficult to take that into my daily life, because I'm training myself for maybe half an hour or 40 minutes or 10 minutes to be out of the body, then very difficult to be in the body when we go into our daily life. And I see it a bit like this little bowl. This is, the body is the carrier of your essence. And this is what you take in all we do, no matter if we're eating, sleeping, shitting, or whatever,
Yes.
working,
So funny.
the body is there. So therefore, it's needs to be really, and I think sometimes I say in a class, it is embodiment. It doesn't say out of bodiment or enheadment. No, embodiment. It's really in a whole physical body. And we see this ultimately in all these spiritual teachings. When in Zen, when you sit down, you focus on your body because the focus is right here. Asanas in yoga, when these teachers stand
True.
under waterfalls, that you can really feel that water hitting your body in Japan, for example, or even in Tai Chi, you work with your body. So all of these teachings is first being in the body, but we don't like this because that's where the trauma is stored and we don't want to see that shit. So we try to
Yeah.
escape the body, but then becomes very, very difficult to bring those practices in your daily life. And so the more we train, the more we realize this openness of mind, right? And then the less we start to grasp on things. So for example, we have the mantra Honsei Shinen in the system of Reiki. And Nen is an interesting thing because it can mean different things, but thought or mind. And actually, I was thinking about this morning because I was at my mum. She's almost 88, and my sister is going to have a holiday next week. She stays here in Holland. And the whole month, the last month, it's been beautiful weather, and they're predicting rain from next week on. So my mom
Okay.
goes, "Oh, poor Andrea. Now she might, it's raining on a holiday." I said, "Yeah, but this also depends on our mind." So the word Nen gives this great example traditionally in Zen teachings. And we should not forget that Mikosui was practicing Buddhist teachings. I mean, this is very evident in the history, very evident in uh, the way he formulated the teachings, but also the story that he
Yeah.
was at a Zen temple and his Zen teacher said some specific teachings. So, and again, also when he gave his answer that Reiki or the state of mind is Kami or Buddha in the little manual was handed out by the Usui Reiki Gakkai. So we can clearly see these links. And in Zen and in his Buddhist teachings, the word Nen, thought, is a little bit like this. We have the first thought, then we have the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, etc. So what they train is to train and stay with the first thought. So for example, in this case, rain, first thought. But then we create a whole bloody story about it. Oh, my holiday is not going to be nice. I don't like it. Well, this is going to be crappy. What am I going to do now the whole day? I cannot sit in the sun. This is just thought one, two, three, four, five. And suddenly we have a whole story. But the first thing is just rain. If we just stay with the first nen, so honsei shinen means stay with the first nen. Don't create stories around it. Because when we create stories around it, we get all tangled up. It's just our perception. Who says that rain is bad? Right? Oh,
Right.
we can actually just go to a movie. We can go to a cafe and talk to people. We can do some book reading. We can do board games. It actually could be a fantastic holiday. But if I already add more thoughts to the first thought of rain, then my holiday is not going to be so good. But this is with many different things. And this is also when we link it with that compassion again, then we see a person And then we label that person. Oh, there is that person who looks like this, or that person who is coming from this culture or that culture or this background or that background, or that person once said something not nice to me, and then but is just Bob or Betty or whatever. And that's the first thought. And then we add stories around it. So Honsa Seishinen means really don't get caught up in the story. Keep with the first thought.
Wonderful. I love that. Yeah. And in terms of your process from moving through that, is that easy to keep with the first thought, the original thought? You're gonna
Sometimes
get
it's
away with it,
easy.
Frans.
Sometimes it's easy. Sometimes it's difficult. I mean,
Okay.
you know, I had something not so long ago, and yeah, then but the thing is, the more we practice, and I think this is the first thing, that we need to become aware that we get caught up in our stories. If we don't, if we're not aware of it, then it becomes very difficult because then we don't know where to look. So the first thing in Mikasui teachings is we put our hands on our body. And in the precepts, we see the phrase Shinshin kaizen. And Shinshin kaizen means mind-body harmony. Now, what means if I put my hands on my body and I think about something else, then my body is here, but my mind is somewhere else. Most of the time, the mind is in the past or in the future. So then there is no mind-body harmony. So for example, if I do hands-on healing and I'm watching TV, then my mind is engaged with the TV, no mind-body harmony, right?
True.
So therefore, traditionally, hands-on healing was a meditation practice because if my mind is calm, my energy is calm. If my mind is not caught up in the story, then my energy is not caught up in the story. So therefore also, and then we come to an even finer level. If we go, okay, I put my hands on myself or on someone else, but let's say ourselves. And then if I'm not getting caught up in the past, that's great. I'm not getting caught up in the future, also great. And then slowly we start to realize I'm getting caught up in the present moment. Oh, I feel heat. What does it mean? I feel tingling. Oh, that means this. Oh, I see a red color. Oh, I wonder what red means. Right? So instead of sensation and stay with the first thought, so maybe tingling. No need to create a whole story about it. Or heat. No need to create a whole. So Mikasui put very specific teachings within his teaching to say, this is how we practice. But now we practice, oh, tingling, that means this. Hot means this. But it's impossible because we're all different. We all feel it different. My storyline of heat might be very different than your storyline of heat. Like last night, I went to a Mexican restaurant and had some nice spices. My friend, I went with a friend. She said, "Oh man, this is so hot." I was like, "No, not for me. I think I need a little bit more." So heat, right, is debatable. What is hot and what is not hot,
Just
right?
subjective.
So absolutely. So Mikasui said, don't get caught up in it. And yet, these days, with hands-on healing, we get so caught up in it. And if I practice like this, hands-on healing on myself for 45 minutes or half an hour, and I train myself to be caught up in all I'm sensing and feeling, etc., then that doesn't give me the rest in my daily life. Because then I'm actually training being caught up. And then I'm also being caught up in my daily life. But if for half an hour or 45 minutes, I do hands-on healing on myself, not falling asleep, now I'm staying focused on my hands, not getting caught up in the past, present, future, staying with the first thought on cessation end. Now I'm training my mind not to get caught up. So then if something happens in my life, I notice I'm getting caught up. Right? That makes sense?
Yeah, it does. Absolutely
So
so.
then if I notice that I get caught up, then I can do something about it. But if I train myself against, oh, this means this and this means this, then I'm not going to notice this in my daily life,
Mm,
right?
mm,
So then over time, we notice, oh, Frans, I'm getting caught up in it. I create a whole story around this one thing someone said, or this one thing what just happened. And then we can, for example, do some more hands-on healing in a focused way. We can
mm-hmm,
internalize the symbols and mantras. We can chant the precepts to almost break that pattern of being caught up. And then we can,
mm,
oh, here is this spaciousness, what already exists, but we
mm-hmm,
don't see it because we're getting caught up. If I get caught up on it, I'm like this. If I don't get caught up in it, I'm like that. So then we can ask ourselves, if I get caught up in it, what is my mind doing? It's very tight, right? What is my energy doing? Also very tight.
mm,
What happens if my mind is not caught up in the story? No matter what kind of story, then my mind is free, then my energy is completely free. Very, very different flow of energy, very
mm,
different quality.
mm. I love that. We get so caught up on wanting everything to mean something because this is the world we kind of live in of everything has
Absolutely.
a meaning, has a label.
Yeah.
How does that relate to me? And it happens a lot, particularly when we're teaching with the students. What does that mean? We're dealing with spirituality, so we can't even begin to explain what everything would mean anyway. So trying to encourage them to
Yeah.
just stay focused, as you say, on the hands, maybe move into gratitude or some kind of mantra, but
Yeah.
just trust. But it is very difficult because we are in this world where everything has a label. But yeah, it's a
Yeah.
powerful way to think about it, though. Just it's training ourselves to be Reiki in our daily lives every day, not just when we're sitting down and practicing. And that involves the body, that
Yeah.
involves all of that. And yeah, moving away from giving everything a meaning so we don't get trapped in that. I love that. Yeah. Thank
I
you.
was just when yeah, I just remember something of what happened just Sunday,
Mm,
uh, and I was at my mom's place, and she had we had an uncle and auntie was there, and they have
mm,
now a grandchild, and the grandchild, I think, I don't know, maybe two, something like that, and was born with a little arm like this,
okay.
and
Mm-hmm.
has only two fingers. They like this,
Mm-hmm.
and so uh, he has a little sister who's a little bit older, 1 year older or 2 years older. And so my mama said, oh, what is the other family the kids say from this kid? And I said, they don't notice it.
No.
They don't have judgment about it. It's just
Mm,
the brother or the sister or
mm,
and when we as adults suddenly we grow up and say, oh, look at that person with this strange arm, or oh, poor
mm,
this, or and I said, I and how does the kid, oh, the kid doesn't even notice it because it can do so many things, picks things
mm,
up with his two fingers and does everything, showed some videos how it was doing, and I go like, yeah, we get so, these kids are just still so free. We don't get caught up in color. We don't get caught if there's a disability or if the person has
mm,
glasses or no glasses. And then when we grow older, then we get caught up because we're being taught, right?
mm,
This is good, this is not good, or that, or this person,
mm,
or whatever. And when we stick those labels on it, then actually we keep contracting more and more. And then therefore
mm-hmm.
also our mind becomes very narrow-minded.
Yeah.
And therefore the energy doesn't flow as well as it should be. And this is
Mm-hmm.
what all these traditional teachers like Mikusui were pointing out. Don't get caught up. And
Yeah.
yet, even these days, many Reiki schools teaching get caught up instead
Yeah.
of don't get caught
Yeah.
up.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately, we need to train ourselves and the students on not to get caught up. Because if I don't get caught up, then my kindness is actually a kindness or a compassion what doesn't change according to circumstances. No
Mm,
jealousy, no anger, no fear, no worry. And then actually we can have peace on earth. But if I keep
mm,
getting caught up, then very difficult.
Very, yeah, very. Thank you. Very important to kind of relay that, I think, to our students and to ourselves. I
Oh,
constantly need to remind
absolutely.
myself of that as
Yeah.
well. So yeah, I wanted to kind of understand how your Reiki has evolved over time. So, not in just how you bring it into your daily life, how you conduct your Reiki sessions. I know that uh, you have this view as well of duality that is really, you kind of touched on a little bit there in terms of
Yeah.
not seeing this is wrong or this is right. But yeah, but just kind of wanting to understand how your engagement with Reiki has deepened over time.
Yeah, I mean, the first time I learned the system of Reiki was from an English guy in Nepal.
Mm-hmm.
He was a bit of a hippie, and it was very much just about hands-on healing.
Mm,
And the symbols and mantras very externalized. And at that time, I had a lot of time on my hands because traveling to India and the Himalayas and Nepal. And I
mm-hmm.
remember sitting in this beautiful stupa in Kathmandu, doing some meditation practice, and then you learn distance healing. And I thought, okay, I saw these Buddha statues. Let me do some distance healing to this Buddha statue. And then realizing, is there a distance, or am I creating this distance?
Mm,
And so over time, then when I lived in Darjeeling for a year, and Darjeeling is very much a Tibetan Buddhist settlement, lots of teachings, and so you pick up things, you go to these little temples. And then, of course, when in 2001, when I went first time to Japan, you start to realize all these teachers, like Mikasui, talk about non-duality. But of course, we can have that an intellectual experience or an embodiment of it, right?
mm,
So if we really apply the teachings in the correct way, then there will be a correct result. So if I don't apply it in the correct way, then the result will be very different. So for example,
mm-hmm.
again, if I do hands-on healing on myself and I keep being distracted all the time, then there will be no focus, then very difficult to remember your great bright light. We don't see it because we are distracted most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
If we were not distracted, we would see it, that it's right here at this moment in time today, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is what Mikasui really pointed out. So over time, when I started to really engage physically, mentally with the practices, then you start to feel it more and more in your being. It's a little bit like reading a cookbook. I can read a cookbook. It doesn't mean it's stilling my hunger. I need to cook, I need to stir it, I need to eat it. And I need to follow the recipe correctly, because if I
Mm-hmm.
don't do it correctly, then it might not even be edible, right? So we see the
Mm-hmm.
same thing. I cannot grab all the ingredients, just chuck it in a bowl and chuck the bowl in the oven, and then hopefully for the best that a cake comes out. I need to do it in a specific order. I need to do specific temperatures, specific maybe stirring or whatever. So Mikasui placed actually a very specific recipe for his teachings so that we can realize that, for example, that no anger, no worry, being grateful, being true to your way and your being, and being compassionate. And the interesting thing, really, in the precepts, there's not even mention about hands-on healing. It's really
Mm-hmm.
all about a state of mind, because I cannot take my hands-on healing in my daily life. I cannot walk around like this, but I can
Mm-hmm.
walk around in a state of mind, true training, without anger, without worry, being grateful all the time, and also being grateful for the not so good things. Huh? So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
normally, oh, I'm being grateful that the sun is shining. I'm being grateful that a house, but maybe being grateful that we're sick or that we're dying or whatever, being grateful for everything. And
Mm-hmm.
then we come to that place of being true to our way in our being, and then showing compassion to yourself and others. And the compassion Mikasui really is talking about, and I think this is often not discussed, is a compassion what doesn't change according to circumstances. Because normally you say something nice and I'm being really compassionate to you, and then the next time we meet you say something not so nice and I'm being not compassionate to you. So that compassion changes rapidly. We can see this in relationships very quickly, world
Mm.
circumstances very quickly. So Mikusui really talks about this compassion that doesn't change. And so through practice, slowly, then that embodiment of this non-duality ultimately, or emptiness, and that compassion. And of course, when we embody that, the quality of your energy, oh man, it is very, very different. And we only have to ask ourselves, what if I do hands-on healing on someone or on myself or just in my daily life? If I lead my daily life with anger and worry, and not being grateful, not being true to my way in my being, and not being compassionate, or I lead my daily life or hands-on healing without anger, without worry, being grateful, being true to my way in my being, and being compassionate, do you feel different? If you really check this correctly, then you come to the conclusion, yes, I do feel different.
Mm.
There is a very different flow of your energy, very different flow of state of mind. You feel less tired. You feel more energized. You feel an inner happiness, not an happiness what is depending on certain outer circumstances, but an inner joyfulness, that inner bliss, that inner light, what is luminous. Then no matter if shit happens, you still feel luminous.
Mm. Mm. I love it. How can we give a more um, define the difference between having that compassion for others, no matter what, no matter how they're treating you, and then people who might challenge that and say, well, I'm a people pleaser. I never say no. I always do these things. I'm exhausted. This person is trampling all over me.
Yeah,
And what's kind of coming up is what you were saying about giving meaning. And so when we are in a situation that maybe doesn't feel right, or someone says something we don't like or treated
yeah,
us some way, it's the fact that we have given that meaning that causes us to suffer in a way.
yeah,
We've made it mean something about ourselves that's caused us to suffer. And then that prevents us from being compassionate to them and their circumstances and what they've maybe been brought up with. Um, but I know that that comes up, we're challenged sometimes by people who say, well, and I want people to reach for their authenticity. And if
yeah.
they don't want to do something, to be able to compassionately say, well, look, not today for me, maybe. And
Absolutely.
but yeah, what's your take on that, basically, in
I
terms of
agree with
the
you.
difference?
I think the problem we have these days that we think compassion and kindness is some kind of fluffy kindness and compassion, but it can be actually being quite a wrathful compassion. Can it
Mm-hmm.
being stand up for your right, but in a
Yeah.
kind way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you want to stand up against war, but do it in a kind way. Because
Mm-hmm.
if I'm doing it in an angry way, that anger is the same as the oppressor's anger, then the same of everybody else's anger. You might say, no, it's a different anger. No, but that anger, that energy is going to hurt you. So we can
Mm-hmm.
stand up in a kind, compassionate way. So we
Mm-hmm.
can see this beautifully with, for example, Thich Nhat Hanh, who was really,
Yes.
like a great example of standing up in a kind, compassionate way about the
Mm-hmm.
situation, for example, in Vietnam or
Mm-hmm.
situation worldwide. And so for me, compassion can be quite, okay, I need my time. I
Mm-hmm.
need to have some space. I need to have some rest, but in a kind way. You're not
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, you're bothering me. I don't like
Mm-hmm.
you. You're annoying me. You make me tired. No, you make yourself tired,
Mm-hmm.
right? The reason we get tired because the first thought comes and then we create a whole story around it,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then we get tired and then we say to ourselves, oh man, so tired of this person. Poof, this person is just she is driving or he's driving or they are driving me crazy.
Mm-hmm.
No, but that's the story what you're telling yourself. No matter how annoying they are,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
If you get caught up in the story of them, then you get tired. So if we train ourselves not to get caught up in that story, we're telling ourselves, then automatically it's the same when some healers, they say, "Oh, I feel drained after a session," or "I need to protect
Yeah.
myself," or all of these elements is because we're getting caught up in the story. And if we don't get caught up in the story, you could do maybe 10 1-hour treatments a day. And of course, physically, maybe
You're feeling
because you're
tired.
standing, your muscles might feel tired, but your mind
Yeah.
and energy might feel so amazing because if you do the treatments without being caught up in it, I always say it like this. Here's in the town I live is a big shopping street. And if I walk through the shopping street and I get distracted by every single thing I see, hear, smell, taste, sense, and if I get caught up in it, right? Create a
Mm.
whole story around it. At the end of the shopping street, am I tired or not tired? You'll probably be very tired. But if you train yourself, you walk to the shopping street, you hear everything, you smell everything, you taste everything, you see anything, you feel everything, but you don't get caught up in the story. You tell it to yourself. Then at the end of the street, you feel energized because the energy keeps flowing.
Wonderful.
So for
Yeah,
me,
that's
this
so
is
true.
what we do. Normally, we get caught up. The shopping street is a metaphor for when we do hands-on healing, or a metaphor when we do treatment on other people, or a metaphor for our daily life. We cannot stick our head in the sand because then we're not living. We also cannot go like this, right? Some people say, "Oh, but I need quietness when I meditate." And then they go and sit in a cave, and then the cave you hear drip, 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 and then you hear some rustle in the grass, and you think it's a snake. The quietness is just in your own mind, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Is learning to, as you said, know what to shut down. And
Yeah,
because we can't live in a cave. No, we have to live in this world. And that's why we're here, I think, to just
absolutely.
experience this
Yeah,
life without
yeah,
that judgment. I love it. Thank you. So I just want to talk about, you mentioned earlier not getting caught up in what we're feeling, seeing colors and all of that. But in my experience as a teacher, you will, I don't know, I have come across all the time students who it opens up a whole world for them that they're not
yeah,
used to experiencing. And it might be colors, but it might also be an apparition of something. It might be a spiritual face they see, someone who's passed that they see, or they may hear something. So it does open up the third eye, I guess, in this sense. Um, so how do you talk to your students about that, or is it not really talked about so that they're not seeing something, then terrified and never touch Reiki again? How do we
yeah.
put this in perspective for them so that they can continue doing their Reiki, enjoying their Reiki, make peace of maybe what they're experiencing and seeing, acknowledging that some people have their third eye wide open,
Yeah.
experience and see a lot, and some maybe don't. Yeah, how do you deal with that
Yeah, I mean,
with
this is, I
students?
think, a very important element. I mean, this could be a whole different podcast, but
I
I
know it
think
could be a
first
show.
of all, these days, particularly when you look on the internet and
Mm,
healing communities, we all want to open up the third eye. You see, there's so many things, right?
mm,
Let the Kundalini rise, let open your third eye. But if you're not ready,
mm,
it's not good. You need to make
mm-hmm,
sure that you are ready. And how
mm,
being ready, being in the body, being grounded and centered. So in Reiki 1, traditionally, you have these meditation practices like Joshin Kokiho and Seisin Toichu, where you're
mm-hmm,
breathing in the hara, in your
mm-hmm,
center, excuse me, just below your belly button. So if I would stand up, then you can see that's the center of my body.
mm-hmm,
And if I'm very open here and nothing there, I'm an upside down pyramid and something
mm-hmm,
happens. And now we get scared. We need to protect ourselves. We talk about external negativities we need to chase
mm-hmm,
out and etc. etc. And that's because we're unstable. And this is why within the system of Reiki, first of all, Shodan, beginner's teachings, is about you, is about
mm-hmm,
me. If
mm-hmm,
we go too quickly doing treatments on other people and we get caught up and worried, this is why the
Mm.
precepts are so important. If we
Mm.
feel the need to protect ourselves or chase things away, then it means we worry. There is a fear, right? We cannot
Mhm.
accept things as they are. So it means we haven't even understood the precepts yet. So
Mhm.
what then there's already an imbalance in the teachings because we at one moment we say one thing, do not worry, and the next moment we're actually teaching worry
Worry.
and
Mhm.
fear. So
Mhm.
there is a discrepancy happening. So
Mhm.
therefore, I always say, okay, first of all, make sure you stay grounded. I live in an apartment building, it's 20 floors high. If the foundation is not good, it will fall over. In
Mhm.
front of me is a park with hundreds of trees. If the root system is not good, then the canopy might suddenly go like this. But if there's a little bit of wind, the tree falls over. So we
Mhm.
can see this not only in modern structures, but also in natural structures. You don't see a
Mhm.
mountain upside down, right?
Mhm. It's
The
true.
mountain is
Mhm.
solid as a base. So
Mm.
for example, in Reiki 3, there is a symbol and mantra. And traditionally in Japan, the symbology of this is a mountain, right? You're immovable. That
Mm.
means you're not like, doesn't mean you don't move. No, your mind is not moved by what you feel, sense, see, taste. You stay stable. You're not
Mm.
distracted by it. Yeah? So
Mhm.
this is again, we can see Mikusui with these symbols and mantras, with these meditation practices, really, first of all, focuses on being in the body, being
Mm.
grounded and centered. And I think the danger these days is, and I think actually it's an unfortunate danger. Um, that we want to open this because it's exciting, want to see things. But if we're not ready, and I often describe it like this, if this is a flower bud, right? Then if I try to open the flower, then I damage the flower. But if
Mm.
I just give the whole thing light, sunshine, and water the practice, then one day it opens all by itself.
Mm.
If I try to open it with specific practices, then not so good. So first,
Mm.
water, first of all, your core, your center, the roots, right? If we water a plant, we don't water the
Just the petals. No.
like we water the
Mhm.
roots, true?
Mhm.
So if we water the roots, then this will open all by itself. But then
Mm.
it's healthy. And therefore, sometimes I get people, and it's a Frans, I'm a practitioner, do hands-on healing. And sometimes I say, sorry, go first back to your own practice. You're not ready to do. Yeah, but I want to. I said, yeah, but I want to be a car race driver in Formula One. I cannot just hop in a car and drive, no matter if I have
Mm.
a normal driver's license. I
Mm.
need to train, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So it's with
Absolutely.
anything. If I want to be a chef, I need to train. I
Mm.
cannot just knock on a friend's restaurant and say, oh, tonight I will cook for you. Well, the
Mhm.
restaurant will be closed down
Yes.
in no time, probably the
Yeah.
same evening. I need
Yeah.
to train, no
Mm.
matter how much I enjoy cooking, no matter how
Mm.
much I want to cook for other people. If I haven't trained and I make shitty meals, then I'm not ready. And this
Mm.
is why we have to be brutally honest to ourselves.
Mm.
So
Mm.
sometimes I talk in classes like this or to people like this. Be brutally honest. You're not grounded and centered. So don't do something you're not ready for.
Mm. Mm. So do you not teach hands-on healing at Reiki One?
Yeah, of
Or
course, for
okay.
yourself. Yeah, but
Yeah, more for the
the
self.
most important thing, like, so these days, when we look at Reiki 1, most
Mm.
people teach Reiki 1.
Mhm.
Then they teach hands-on healing.
Mm.
They might briefly mention the precepts, but that's it. So for
Mm.
me, the precepts in Reiki 1 is the core, is the foundation.
Mm. Mm.
Do not anger if the
Mm.
pain is not going away.
Mm.
Do not worry if the pain is not going away. Do not
Mhm.
worry if you see, sense, feel something.
Mm.
Let it come, let it go. Don't get
Mm.
distracted by it. Be grateful for the experience and then let it go.
Yeah.
No need to analyze it.
Yeah.
Right? Be true to your way and your being. If you're not ready for it, don't. And be compassionate to the experience and to yourself. Oh, I feel I do get worried. Okay, I'm being compassionate. I'm still training. It's okay. I do get angry because my headache is not gone, etc., etc. So for me, the foundation of the system of Reiki is the precepts. That is the first thing we need to show our students. The first thing, here it is. From that, all the other elements come into place. Then we have Joshin Kokyo. So then I teach the person how to do the meditation practice, right? Breathing in the hara, centering yourself. So then when we do hands-on healing in the class, and they say, oh, that was a bit scary. Oh, remember the precepts. Remember centering yourself in your core. And the person said, oh, I'm a bit worried about this. Remember the precepts. Center yourself in your core. So if you start off as a teacher like that, then you have a foundation. Like, for example, let's say I learn cooking. The first thing I need to do is make sure that the kitchen top is clean, that my bowls are clean, that my knives are clean, that the oven is clean, that the pots are clean, right? Because no matter what I do, if the pots and the tabletop or the kitchen top and the knives is not clean, no matter what I do, the food is being spoiled by the dirtiness in the bowl, right? So for example, if I'm going to make a cake and my knife still has garlic on it, then no matter what I do, the cake will taste of garlic. True?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So if no matter what I do, if I don't understand the precepts, so the cleanness of the pots, the cleanness of the knife, then no matter what I do is contaminated by that, right? So the foundation of the system of Reiki, this is why Mikasui said, here is the precepts. He didn't say here is hands-on healing. There's no mention of hands-on healing, right? He said, first of all, here's the precepts. It's a state of mind, the state of mind of being kami, the state of mind of being Reiki, the state of mind of being this great bright light. And from that comes hands-on healing. And nowadays, we first think hands-on healing comes first. But no, that's not true. Because if my hands-on healing is contaminated with anger and worry and fear, we have a problem. Just like if I want to sell cakes, but my knife is always contaminated with garlic, then I have garlic cakes and my chocolate cake tastes of garlic, my carrot cake tastes of garlic, because it's contaminated with something I have not looked at.
Makes perfect sense. Yeah. The precepts are often, as you say, brushed over.
Absolutely.
It's just memorize this, say
Yeah.
this. But yeah, I like to read. That's a whole session for us. We go through every single one. We talk about it. How does it affect them now? And yeah, we bring that into their lives. So it's so important. Then they can understand what they need to work on in
Yeah.
order to, as you said, just to be more kami, just to be more that kind of spirituality, spiritual God. But
Here's
yeah.
another thing, Gwen. Like I see this being taught in many Reiki classes, when we put our hands like this first, right? And some people call it namaste, some people call it the prayer position. In Japanese, it's called gasho.
Sure.
A gasho means to unite left and right. So traditionally, gasho means non-duality. So if I already go like this, and now I need to connect to Reiki because I see it as something up there outside of myself, then I haven't understood even the Gasho. The Gasho means I am already Reiki. It's not outside and then I'm not. The Gasho means non-duality. If I do hands-on healing on someone and I do Gasho before, then that means me and my client are one and the same thing,
Mm,
right?
mm,
Or then also when I do Gasho, means non-duality, and even if I say, oh, there's some negative energy, what I need to chase out of the person, that is
mhm,
duality. So then I haven't
mhm,
understood the basis of Gasho
mhm,
yet. Do you
mhm.
know, see what I'm saying? So,
Absolutely. Yeah.
so therefore, if we skip over these foundations, then
Mm,
the cake will not be correct. The cake might not be edible, and we
mm,
don't get the desired result. So the first thing
mhm,
is we need to know the foundation. What does this really mean?
mm,
What does the precepts really mean? And if we can
mm,
teach that in Reiki 1 in the beginning as the foundation, then the foundation is really good. Then all the other
mm,
practices can rest on it. Then we
mhm,
feel more joy, more inner bliss, inner happiness. But if my foundation is not good because I skip over it, then the students are going to have a problem.
mhm. Yeah, it makes sense. And also bringing the non-duality, one, just as you say, remembering that we are Reiki. And if we are Reiki, then everybody is Reiki. And
Absolutely.
therefore, there isn't this disconnect between you and the person you're working with. And
Absolutely.
for them,
Yeah.
there's a co-creation happening, and the body is healing itself.
Yeah.
It's always, yeah, something to remind our students of, that we're not doing the healing. The body
Yeah.
is taking what it needs and doing. I think you called it offering Reiki. It's almost like that, as opposed to
Yeah.
giving and forcing. But yeah, it's to remember that it's they are just as much light as we are. And
Absolutely. No
yeah.
matter what illness they have, no matter
Mm-hmm.
if we realize that that light, what they still have this purity, that
Mm,
is the same purity we have. And
mm,
I sometimes I say this too in my classes. Someone said, "Oh, Frans, do I need to protect myself when I do hands-on healing?" I said, "Well, if you need to
mm.
protect yourself, then you also have to ask your client to protect themselves
Very
because
true.
I still have some issues. Let's face it.
Exactly.
I'm really
Mm,
honest. I still have issues. Then we have two people protecting themselves.
mm.
Where, how, and what is the energy doing? It has no way
Yes.
of yeah, but we still feel something, of course, because when I put my hands on myself, I feel something. But
Mm-hmm.
if we let go of these boundaries, then something really powerful and beautiful happens. And then if no matter what we experience, if we label it a demon or a god or whatever, then we
Mm,
just, oh, this is just a label. And then we
mm-hmm.
can be free. Then we can be utterly free. And if
Mm-hmm.
we utterly free, what happens to our energy? What happens to your physical body?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, suddenly I'm relaxed. I feel calm. I feel open. No more tension in my body. No more tension in my mind. No more tension in the
Mm-hmm.
energy. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a win-win situation. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. It feels a little bit like a nirvana, though. It feels a little bit, is this really possible to be in this state? We're always, I guess, learning and reaching for that.
Yeah.
The Satori, I guess they may call it in
Yeah.
Japanese, but but it is something to be working towards, really, for all of us. But in that, there
Absolutely.
should also be some humility, I guess. And when we appreciate the other person is also
Yeah.
this being, this great bright light, then the humility comes in, the compassion comes in.
Yeah.
It feels beautiful. I love it. Thank you. So just so I'm looking at time now, but we've said earlier in your bio, you've studied with many, many spiritual teachers. Who has been the most influence, has had the most influence on you? Why?
Oh, that's some people who I trained with in person. So I trained with a Taoist teacher for 12 years. For me,
Mm,
she was really quite amazing. She was brought up
mm,
in a Chinese Taoist community in China, started training from when she was like 3 years old.
mm,
She was so humble and she was so clear. Her mind, body, and energy was so clear. It was just, yeah, absolutely fantastic.
mm, mm,
My current teacher, absolutely wonderful. But then also people who I met, like this Living Buddha, and what I talked about before in 2003, even though it was 5 minutes, the teaching, what actually came from that, the ramification, the direct experience of this luminosity, this openness, and to realize that that person was not something special, because that light we all have. This person just had recognized it, and we just don't recognize it. So, there's many of, like, I've never met Thich Nhat Hanh, but I love his teachings.
Same.
So sometimes someone on the street who I see and smiles, and not so long ago, there was this couple, they were walking towards me. I didn't know them. I looked in their eye, they looked in my eyes. I smiled, they smiled. It felt like a Reiki treatment. It was just, and so I walk, I turn around, they looking, I wave, whatever. And 10 minutes later, I still felt fantastic. So, I go into a massage therapist. He used to do massage for really high-end sports people, like Tour de France and those kind of people. Oh, when I go to, like, again, the ways he does these massages, just with so much love, so much depth, so much knowledge, so much clarity, not, again, completely letting go, like, even if I would say afterwards, oh, what did you feel? She doesn't have to label it and analyze it, because that way you can feel this openness. I go to a acupuncturist in Amsterdam, same thing. So I learned so much from these people. And even if people are angry with me, I feel like I'm learning from them. And what I'm learning is, don't take it personally, let it go, don't hold on to it. So I think everything can be our teacher.
I love that. And it's, yeah, exactly that, that the whole world is our school, and we should really be forever the student, I guess, in our minds, learning from every
Absolutely.
interaction, every person, every experience
Yeah.
is the way, like a child, I guess, have that kind of innocence. And
Yeah.
yeah, I love
This is
it.
why a lot of these old teachers say, okay, we need to go back to our childlike nature. And of course, not that we have to be all, but we have to be wise about it. But what they
Yeah.
mean is really that openness, that innocence, that love for the beauty for everything. I mean, like, even now, I mean, I like, if you can see the sky here, it's really absolutely stunning. I've got big windows. If I look
Wonderful.
out, that teaches me already so much. It's
Mm,
like everything changes rapidly,
mm,
right?
mm,
Nothing stays the same. And then,
mm,
oh, I can focus on the clouds, what might be the issues and my attachments, my worries, what I see, hear, taste, create a story
mm,
around it. This is a
mhm.
fluffy cloud. This is an angry cloud. Oh, that's a
It means this.
demon cloud. This is a rainbow cloud. Or I can say, wow, look, behind that is a beautiful wide open space. And that
Mm,
wide open space is never bothered by the clouds. It
mhm,
doesn't grasp. And so I'm
mm,
like, wow, maybe I can be more like this wide open sky spaciousness, and not
mm,
focus constantly on the clouds, or my issues, or on people, or on situations, etc. And what
mm,
would happen if I actually remind myself, because the choice is always there, what if I remind myself more and more on a daily basis that I can be that wide open cloud, beyond the cloud spaciousness, and not getting caught up in the clouds? What would happen to me? Do I feel lighter? Do I feel more playful? Do I feel more joy or not? What
mm.
happens then to my energy? So nature, same thing. But again, nature is not something outside of us. We are nature, and never forget.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hmm. Absolutely. We're not separate from any of
No.
it at all. I love that. Thank you. Um, I think just two more questions. I think obviously you've done a lot of research and exploration of the Reiki symbols. You've talked about it a little bit here today as well, taking a lot from esoteric Buddhism and
Yeah.
Shintoism. So can you share a little bit about what you've discovered about the symbols in terms of things you know that kind of differ to how we typically think about the symbols, particularly in Western Reiki? that have maybe influenced you, and maybe talk about how you integrate the symbols again into your daily life. You've mentioned Honshu Shonen, but
Yeah.
yeah, another big topic, I know.
Yeah. Well, the first thing is that when you go to Japan and you look at all these traditional teachings and you see a lot of symbology, in
Mm.
temples. You've been to Japan in these
Mm-hmm.
temples, like, so you see deities, you see symbols, you see maybe a lotus flower, you see a
Mm-hmm.
letter or whatever. That those are all representations of your true nature. Is not something outside of yourself. And we
Mm-hmm.
use these symbols and mantras as something so externally. And the
Mm-hmm.
more we use them externally, the harder it is to find it within ourselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
So traditionally, in all of these teachings, no matter if you look in Shinto or Tendai Buddhism or Shugendo or Shingon, these external personifications or symbolic representations, they're symbolic representations or personifications of your essence, your true nature.
Mm-hmm.
And to be able to realize that, we need to meditate upon them. Is not some magical symbol what we throw around. No, it is
Mm.
what you are, and therefore
Yeah.
we need to meditate upon them. And when I
Mm.
start to do this, really internalize in a very specific way these symbols and these mantras, very different, very different. I started to feel different. My energy started to feel different. My state of mind became less angry, less worried, less fearful, more open and spacious. So yeah, that, for example. And I remember in 2000, I think it was 2011, I can't remember.
Okay.
Anyway, something. I was sitting on this mountaintop in Japan, and this is a very specific mountaintop where you can only stay if you belong to certain traditions.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you have to hike up. It's about 4 or 5 hour hike up to the top. There's a few little
Mm-hmm.
monasteries. So I was staying there for 5 days, and I was
Mm-hmm.
meditating in front of a little temple. And I go like,
Mm-hmm.
that looks like the first symbol we use in Reiki too.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, what the heck? So I went to the priest, who is the priest of this mountain, and I said, okay, what does this mean? And I drew the first symbol, like what we use. And I hadn't even finished it. And he said, oh, this means go to Kami,
Wow.
go to your inner divine being. And again, Mikasui pointed this out in his own words in his little manual, what is handed out by the Sui Regere Gakai. The Kami and Buddha is the most important element and state of mind of a Reiki practitioner. So I go like, oh, fuck, this makes so much sense,
Mm-hmm.
right? So when we realize these kind of things, so for example, the first mantra, Chokure, means divine spirit, what is the same
Mm-hmm.
as Kami, your owner inner divine self, right? And this word, for example, chokore, is used by other traditions in Japan. Mikasui didn't grab it from space somewhere. No, he borrowed
Mm-hmm.
teachings from Shintoism, from Tendai Buddhism. We also should not forget Mount Kurama at Mikasui's time was a Tendai Buddhist mountain. So when we go
Mm-hmm.
now, it's since the 1940s, it's never been a Tendai Buddhist mountain anymore. But in Mikasui's time, it was a Tendai Buddhist mountain. So what we see now doesn't really represent Mikasui's teachings.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, some people, they say, oh, yeah, but this and that. No, because it's changed over time. It
Mm-hmm.
was, the mountain was sold to a different tradition, what it's now. And so when we look at all of these teachings, like the first symbol and mantra, the second, the third, and the fourth, there's only four.
Mm-hmm.
And when we look at the precepts, when we look at these very specific meditation practices, when we look at Reiju, then we can see the heritage
Mm-hmm.
of these Japanese traditions and what it was actually pointing to. And again, what was it pointing to? The state of mind that you are Reiki, the state of mind that you are the light, or the state of mind that you're Kami or Buddha nature, or in other words, that your essence is a state of mind of the precepts. That in our essence, there is no anger, there is no worry. The quality of the essence, just like the quality of the water I have here is wet, I cannot make it more wet or less wet. The quality of that essence is being grateful, being true to our way in our being, and being compassionate. A compassion what doesn't change according to circumstances. Then we can really get a whole picture, a very clear picture of what Mikasui's teachings was about.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for that reminder as well, in terms of who we are, using the symbols as a reminder of who we are. Like, as
Yeah.
you say, I am Kami, I am, as opposed to it's out there and grabbing it, and that has the power. So we're not taking that energy away from ourselves, that power away from ourselves.
I think this is also about self-responsibility
Mm,
and giving our power away to a symbol or a mantra. I mean, like, that's not very empowering,
no,
isn't it?
no. Not whether it's the moon or,
Yeah,
Mercury going backward. It's all of that. It's understanding we're connected. I always say to my students, we are part of whatever it is created all of these things, the moon and the sun and the symbol that,
yeah,
this is it. So it is a beautiful reminder. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Oh, my final question, Franz, is a personal question.
yeah.
As a prolific writer, you've written many beautiful books. The Healing Heart of Reiki, I'm rereading. I read it 10 years ago when I first started Reiki, and I'm rereading it again. But you're a prolific author and co-author. I'm in the process of trying to write my book. It's not specifically about Reiki, but
Yeah.
I just wanted to know your process for having the discipline to sit and write, and what your approach is to writing, because I'm not very good at I'll write something. Last time I wrote something probably like a month ago. So what is your approach when you're looking at starting to write a book, and to keep the consistency there, keep you motivated? Spill.
Yeah, again, we being true to our way and our being. Everybody is a
Mm,
different way.
yeah, for
I'm
sure.
not a person who says, now I'm going to write a book and let me plan it and like this. I see it a little bit that a lot of things kind of percolate in my head.
Mm,
And then it's almost like it's bubbling over. And then as soon as this bubbles over, I need to write it down. First of all, for
mm,
myself to
mm,
make sure I understand it correctly and get some clarity in that. And then when I write it down, then I can say, oh, this can be a nice blog. I just wrote recently 3 blogs in 1 week, and sometimes I don't because nothing is percolating.
yeah.
So for a book, for example, the last book, I could feel it percolating. And then suddenly I got like, okay, now I need to sit down. And then I actually lock myself kind of in the house and wake up at 6 till midnight. And I just write and then don't
Mm,
do anything else for 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or whatever, how long it
fabulous.
takes.
Mm,
And then
mm,
I'm also very much, after I've write it, I hardly go back. I might read it one more time to see if the fluidity is there,
mm,
and then that's it.
mm,
Because it's like a painting. We can go back to the painting again and again, but then it's never finished. And at one
mm,
point, we need to be satisfied with what it is. So then I
mm,
go like, okay, here it is. And then I sent it to the publisher and it's okay, France, great. We have an editor look through it. I also have my own editor where I send it to.
mm,
So yeah, for me, it needs to, I would love to write a different book, maybe a novel or something. But for that,
okay.
I know I have to really sit down for maybe 6 months, maybe in a nice little
Mm.
cabin in France somewhere.
And then right away, yeah.
And then right away and those kind of things.
Mm,
But yeah, for Reiki, because also, it's for me, it's not something I teach, even that
mm,
I'm teaching it, or some people say you're a teacher. For me, is really something what is part of my life.
Yeah.
And therefore, like even in my daily encounter, like what you were saying before, that this person is teaching me something, or this situation is teaching me something, or the clouds
Mm,
are showing me something,
mm,
not externally, but all internally,
mm,
ultimately to do with my mind, body, and energy. And
mm-hmm,
then when I can feel that, that would be interesting to write about. Like just recently, I wrote a blog about Gasho. And so I
mm-hmm,
was talking about it in class and like, okay, would that be actually a good thing to emphasize more for students? But first, I need to know it. I need to. So then I
mm-hmm,
do maybe a little bit of research. Then I think about it. Maybe I meditate upon it. And then one day it percolates out. I go, okay, now I'm going to write it down.
mm-hmm.
So yeah,
Wonderful.
I think the best way is to find your way,
Mm,
and a little bit harder sometimes when we have kids, family, work,
yeah.
to actually take the time out to say, I'm locking myself in my room.
Yeah, yeah. I think I would definitely take that on board. I think like probably like you, the information just seems to come. I do a weekly blog as well, a newsletter. It turns into a blog. And sometimes I'll sit there, it goes out at 7:30 a.m. on the Sunday. I'm sitting there Saturday and I'm like, what am I going to write? And the minute I get quiet, it kind of
Yeah,
comes in. So writing that way is beautiful. But yeah, I definitely need to block out time and write because once I
yeah,
start, it pours, it comes, it does flow. And I'm similar to you. I don't like going back and redo. I do the same with videos. I don't redo it. It's great. It's just put it out there. Just
I
trust what
have
was
the
coming
same.
to us was
Yeah,
the right thing.
yeah.
You know, who has time anyway? But yeah, that's wonderful advice, Franz. Thank you so much. Thank you. And thank you so much for your wonderful insights today and sharings. I really hope it's illuminated a different way of thinking about Reiki for people as opposed to this prescriptive kind of technique approach, but understanding that it's something that they are and need,
Yeah,
embody, need to practice in their daily lives. And then they have more to give to people who want Reiki or they want to offer Reiki to as well as to themselves. But it's for me, it's been a beautiful gift. Um, Reiki has just changed my life completely. And the more I can bring people to that, it just feels like we're just one by one changing the world because we know it ripples out from them. We know it doesn't stop
absolutely.
with
Yeah,
them, even if they just focus on their own healing, just affects everybody around them. But it
yeah.
was wonderful to get some amazing insights from you to kind of reorientate ourselves again back to the true nature of Reiki, something you talk about all the time, our true nature and what our focus should be, and have that compassion for others and ourselves, and really reflect on the precepts and the original intentions of Mikao Usui. But yeah, I've thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. I think there will be a part two if you're willing, but I've
I don't
thoroughly
mind. It's
enjoyed
great.
it.
Yeah,
Thoroughly
no
enjoyed
problem.
it. But yeah, can you share with everybody how they can connect with you, work with you, do your courses? I know you do quite a lot. Find your
Yeah,
books.
so I do lots of courses. So I'm actually teaching a wonderful 3-day Reiki retreat in Italy in June. I always like
Wonderful.
that. And then
Mm,
I'm doing a 2-day Reiki retreat in Berlin later on, and I'm teaching in Australia. Then I'm teaching in the UK again, a retreat and a Reiki teacher course in
wonderful.
Cheltenham. But I love it's a nice, beautiful town in the Cotswolds. But yeah, you
Mm,
can follow that all on ihreiki.com, International House, or ihreiki.com. You can subscribe to the newsletters. I'm also on Facebook, on the Frans Stiene over International House of Reiki, Instagram. Yeah, so feel free to
that's
reach out or say hi.
wonderful. Thank you. I love it. I'll put all the details in the description below the video as well. And I love it. I'm also a member of, as you obviously have done your Shinbiden course, I'm also a member of your forum and blog. And you recently published the CV of Mikao Usui, which was just mind blowing. Shared
Yeah.
that with my community as well. So definitely worth joining, guys, if you want to just learn some more about Reiki, different perspective about Reiki. And I guess mindfulness and Buddhism, you bring everything in really, and Shintoism into that as well, spirituality as a whole. But yes, I'll put everything below. And anything else you want me to share, Franz, just let me know and I'll put it below. But thank you so much. putting my hands in Gasho. I was going to say namaste,
Also
but
good.
I
Everything is good.
really, yeah, everything is good. Really, really
Yeah.
appreciate this and you taking time to talk to me. Thank you so much. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. Bye.